over the last 2 weeks, Scotty and I have been examining a couple of pictures that now make sense that didn't make sense when one first looked at it. One of the portraits is by Rembrandt, and it's called Night Watch, and it's got a whole set of people, basically each one of them representing a control mechanism through human beings in the system, including a little woman, a wee man, in the middle. But if you enlarge the photograph and look at it carefully, you see behind the main player on the scene, where his legs are parted, there's a foot between his legs of a wild animal that looks like a gorilla foot. And if you look along the other side of his leg, the other one is there. One has 4 toes, the other one has 6 toes. You can't see the animal or the Bigfoot or whatever it is behind the person, but you can tell there's enough space for it to be there. And it was an intriguing thing to think that Rembrandt would have painted that in to give a hint. And at one stage of the game, I remembered I had seen such a foot before, and I went through my files and I found it in the picture, the line drawing I have of Confucius sitting on a big throne-type chair, and if you look down between his legs, he has the same feet. So it's like he's sitting on the lap of this bigger animal, which has to be something like a gorilla, but I suggest is symbolic of Neanderthaler behind the scene running the show. Now, there's no doubt they would want us all to believe that the Neanderthalers are still there doing their business, but in fact, most likely everything is run by the 2 computers. Boaz and Joachim are the 2 computers. The allegory is there as well in the fact that we are the Earth in the middle of 2 planets, one of which is suggested to be male, Mars, because it's got Ram in its name, and the other one, Venus, is supposed to be feminine. So it's basically suggesting that males and females are separate and are being brought together as a single version here on Earth.
Who started it? You are the people. I'm trying to see my way through all of this. Am I to turn piety over to the system and let it destroy itself? Am I to teach the system how to space jaunt so we can spread our ignorance from galaxy to galaxy like some foul disease? What's the answer?
The answer is yes.
My radiation's driven the robot berserker.
What?
The answer to your question is yes.
Thank you.
My pleasure, sir.
Things don't come up anywhere. Switch it off, press T before it.
Leave it. Tell me, if the answer is yes, what do we do about the stupid society we live in?
Yes, it is still stupid, but you must teach society, not dictate to it.
Why?
Because you are part of it. You are not above it.
Then who leads?
The misfits.
Why can't we all move forward together?
Because most of you leave the decisions to somebody else.
And then the freaks grab the power?
Yes, but it drives them crazy. Then they make terrible mistakes.
How can we stop them?
By becoming more responsible. A responsible society doesn't need leaders.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, sir.
You've saved the day.
Always a nice day, some words.
That thing was right. Who are we to make decisions for the world? Who the hell are we to keep secrets from it? Let the world know and decide for itself.
Time can only be fully understood. Time can only be fully understood. Time Time can only be fully understood. Time can only be fully understood. Observer by an observer with a godlike gift. An observer by an observer with a godlike gift. An observer by an observer with a godlike gift. An observer of regression. An observer of regression. An observer of regression. Observer of regression. Observer of infinite regression. Observer of infinite regression. Observer of infinite regression. 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 Time can only be fully understood. Time infinite regression. Time can only be fully understood. Time can only be fully understood. Time can only be fully understood. Time.
We came from your future. We came from your future.
Now here's a painting of a landscape. Now the artist who painted that picture says something is missing. What is it?
I myself was part of the landscape I painted, so he mentally takes a step backward or regresses and paints a picture of the artist painting a picture of the landscape. But still something is missing, and that something is still his real self painting the second picture. So he regresses further and paints a third, a picture of the artist painting a picture of the artist painting a picture of the landscape. But because something is still missing, he paints a fourth and a fifth until he paints a picture of the artist painting 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 a landscape.
So infinite regression, and it is the moment when our artist has regressed to the point of infinity and himself becomes part of the landscape he painted and is both the observer and the observed.
We came from your future. We came from your future.
Years ago. 5 million years ago. 5 million years ago. 5 million years ago. 65 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 million years ago.
Still something is missing, and that something is still his real self painting the second picture. So he regresses further and paints a third, a picture of the artist painting a picture of the artist painting a picture of the landscape. But because something is still missing, he paints a fourth and a fifth until he paints a picture of the artist painting 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 a landscape.
So infinite regression, and it is the moment when our artist has regressed to the point of infinity and himself becomes part of the landscape he painted and is both the observer and the observed.
Then the Chronovision tuned to me. I was there, watching myself, at that very instant, watching myself. Then I became aware of watching myself on the Chronovision while watching myself on the Chronovision. And I became the me watching instead of the me being watched. But then, I was aware that I was being watched. And then I was watching me, watching myself on the Chronovision. And it kept going on and on. And every time I attempted to stop watching myself on the Chronovision, I would become aware that I was being watched as I watched myself. It was like mirrors looking into mirrors. Each vision of myself watching myself in the Chronovision gave rise to infinite visions of myself watching myself.